My name's Andy Rhine-Tutt and I'm the Mayor of Amesbury this year, 2011, and I'm very interested in the history of Amesbury and putting Amesbury back on the tourist map. Amesbury's been steeped in history and not many people know about it, but we know when looking through the record books how significant a town it's been. When it's mentioned in King Alfred's will, and when Queen Eleanor of Provence is buried in our church, and when Vespasian takes over the camp at the top of the hill, it has to be an important place.
I'm David Jacques. I tutor with the OU on a couple of courses, Roman course and an English language course. It's tremendously exciting. We've had the great fortune, but there has been some hard research work as well to discover what's almost certainly the oldest settlement in the Stonehenge environment.
My name's Mike Clark and I look after the Vespasian's camp for Sir Edward Antrobus, who lives abroad. He comes home once a year and I look after it the rest of the time for him.
Well, my name is Tom Lyons and I work 9 to 5 during the week for Oxford Archaeology East.
I was lucky enough to get a research associateship from the Classics faculty, the Open University in 2005. When I'd been a student at Cambridge, I'd been working on the other side of the river to here, and I knew that there was something significant in Vespasian's camp, and I knew that it was under-researched.
Been interested in the site, been walking the site for 30 years, and we see features in the landscape that interested us and wondered why they were there. And when David Jacques came along, pointed them out to him, and it went from there.
David has been in touch with the council, which I'm obviously part of, and we've involved the community. So we've had lots of community volunteers come here and all taken a very active part in digging. I've even been in the trench myself digging.
My name's Christine Smith and I'm an ex-OU student through David, who was my OU tutor, and it was through him and his interest in this that he asked the students on his course if any of us would like to join him on a dig. And we all thought, that sounds a good idea, something a bit different. And we've been coming for the last 4 years.
We've relied on the Open University for funding between 2005 and 2009. So absolutely critical first 4 years. So we had the funding in terms of the money, and really we had the funding in terms of these really special people who are our students.
When we meet the other students here, we just all get together and it's a real community.
The simple fact that you're just getting people outside, working with other people whom they don't know, over the course of a sort of concentrated 36-hour period is really invigorating for all involved, not just the students, for us as well.
I've been helped with the digging and pointing out the particular sites of interest, and every trench they've put in, I've sort of suggested that's where they put them.
You've got some topsoil. We think, David probably mentioned to you already, that this is probably some infill from the building of the A303. Then we've got a layer of flint, and bits and pieces of sort of local stuff have come up through there, so little bits of pottery or horseshoes or something like that. But it's once we push through, some just a kind of organic decayed stuff here, and then it's sort of down in this bottom area where we get to the really interesting flint, which is from the Mesolithic period.
Well, what we're doing is we're scraping the trench down layer by layer, keeping it sort of evenly all the way across. And buried in the mud are lots of the little flints that you can see there. And because they're quite sharp and flint's such a clean surface, when you move the mud across the top, very often the surface becomes clear. All you see an edge or you see a point, or you just feel through the mud. And that's how you find them, they're very sharp.
We're literally just scraping it away, going through it with our hands, and then we put it on the spoil heap here, and other people have a second pass through it on there to make sure we haven't missed anything. Yeah. You've got to like getting very dirty and very wet, but it is absolutely fantastic, yes.
It's quite addictive.
Yes,
once you've found one thing, you can't stop.
Yes. And you go to bed seeing mud and flints before your eyes.
David's very good at building a team of people, so whether you're from local or whether you're contacted David or from the OU, you come together, you have an evening meal on Saturday evening in Amesbury at the George, a bit time teamish.
It's just more exciting every time.
It's a lovely experience, and you learn a lot because the two professional archaeologists on site as well, they're incredibly knowledgeable, and you always can refer things to them all the time.
And incredibly gracious as well, you know, about they're so pleased to share their enthusiasm with us amateurs, and it's just fantastic. We feel really privileged to be here.
In Salisbury Plain, up to what we found in this trench and trenches to the side of me, the most amount of tools have been found from the Middle Stone Age, known as the Mesolithic, the cluster of 50 pieces of flint work up at Kingsbarrow Ridge. We found so far over 6,000 pieces of flint work. The vast majority of them have come from a relatively small trench in archaeological terms, 6 metres by 4 metres. We've also found 2,000 pieces of burnt flint. That's really significant because you usually, if you're lucky enough to find a Mesolithic find, you don't tend to get domestic material mixed up with the tools. So it's clear evidence of cooking, and on top of that we've got really good evidence of what they were cooking. They're cooking an aurochs, which is this gigantic cow the size of a very large minivan.
Well, the most conspicuous flint tools that we've been finding, perhaps the most significant, the most important ones, are the wonderful collection of flint blades that make this fantastic noise in your hand, because you can tell that they're worked. So these would have been the sort of everyday knife-like tools, and people would have been able to nap them quite quickly and carry, you know, a selection of larger ones and smaller ones on their person at any given time. A bit like a Swiss Army knife, that's the best analogy, I suppose.
So this project has been really fortunate to recruit fantastic students from the Open University AA 309 course, which is a course that looks at Roman history. Perhaps if I'd had more traditional students, we wouldn't have had the perspective of students who'd had children and families. And so, you know, when people can bring that type of mindset to bear on the archaeology, you get a different slant. And in fact, one of the most significant discoveries of these figurines, which appear to be the oldest figurines found in Britain and Ireland, was discovered by a student's 7-year-old daughter, who I asked to go on the spoil heap because children often have really sharp eyes, and she thought she'd found some toys.
Been very, very interested about what's going on, and keep constant interest and all the finds that come up, and they're answering some of the questions that I've wanted answered for a long time.
Building on the OU investment in the project, English Heritage this year have given us a grant of £1,000, and we've also been very lucky to be given support and financial support by the local town council, Amesbury Town Council. There's been a marvellous synergy between the Open University students and this place, Amesbury. Amesbury historically has been the sort of place that's been bypassed by academics and archaeologists. People haven't really fed back to the town, and I think there's something about the Open University ethos really that's very good at connecting back at grassroots, and so we've got the town on board, and we've been incredibly fortunate to be given since 2009 a grant from the town council, and certainly the work that we've produced since then wouldn't have happened without that grant.
This will be the landmark regeneration programme for Amesbury's heritage. We would like to use this in the fullness of time as a site for people to come and see what life was like 8,000 years ago.
I've been very impressed with the OU students, and they've observed all the rules of the countryside. They've been polite and tidied up after themselves, and been really pleased.
I think the Open University students that have come here to work with us have been fantastic.
It's just absolutely brilliant. I can't think of anything else I would rather be doing this weekend.